Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to the first of 3 readings that will be happening this semester. I am beyond excited to welcome John Sara back to AU. John Sara is a writer from Parma, Ohio, with a love for the strange and unsettling. He holds a BFA in creative writing from Bowling Green State University, and most recently received his master's from Ashland University, where he also teaches as an adjunct and edits for the Black Fork Review. His work has been published in such places as Maudlin House, Blood and Honey, Bending Genres, Bruiser, Cul-de-sac of Blood, and many more. Over the summer, I had the privilege of meeting John during his last year in our MFA program. To say that I was blown away by his poetry would be an understatement. I still often think about his poem When I Dream That Freddy Krueger Kills Me during my thesis defense, which has now been published by Wingless Dreamer. When I heard that his book was being published, I immediately knew that I needed to get him back here to talk to other writers about what it's like at the start of their career. We often get writers that are well in their prime, but we don't often see the start of those careers. I am so glad that he's here taking time out of his schedule to read for us and to share the work that the reader can really feel the passion in. Please help me welcome John Sara.
Hi, everyone. Can you all hear me okay? Feels strange being up here, but thank you, everyone, for coming here today. This is me doing a reading from my debut poetry collection, The Poet Who Cried Monster, which released the 25th of January last month. And this, of course, is a poetry collection inspired by the original Goosebumps series by R.L. Stine, which I realize is a bit of an unconventional first project for a first book. Um, I guess I'm thinking back, I was obviously a Goosebumps fan as a kid, but something about it fascinates me more as an adult, especially as a growing horror writer and someone who is like fascinated a lot by the horror of adolescence and how those things shape us, which is something that my book deals a lot in, amongst many other things. So I'm just gonna, there's 62 poems in this collection, all based on the 62 original books of the 90s series. So I'm kind of jump around a bit, but go mostly in order. Some of my favorites. Okay. Okay, the first poem is called Now I'm Dead in Your House, which is based on the first book of the original series, Welcome to Dead House. And I think one of the things about Goosebumps that's interesting is it starts out a lot darker than what would come after it. It kind of a interesting transition period where it's not quite fit for kids, but I think that works well in my poem's favor, kind of set the mood. So, okay, the first poem, Now I'm Dead in Your House. How many times has a story begun this way, with a family twisting the key into their new house, unaware of what hides in the shadows? Maybe they should advertise that in the listing, print the word haunted above vintage fixer-upper. 4 bedrooms, 2 baths, a cemetery for the kids to play. You can imagine the neighbors knocking the day we move in. It's so nice to see life here again, they'll say. A house like this doesn't do well without people. Sits, starves. Okay, next one. This is called Dad's a Mad Scientist. This is based on Stay Out of the Basement, um, which is one of my favorites. Another fairly dark entry. Um, okay. Dad grows monsters in the basement, nurtures them with water and soil until they look just like him. They take turns in his skin, play good cop, bad cop, the father that comforts and the one that feeds. One of them tucks me in at night, says one day I'll grow big and strong like him, tracing the veins that run like branches beneath my skin. Dad once called this research, as if it were anything but mad science, experiments behind a locked door. A father should take pride in his children, he says, always looking past me at the steps leading downstairs. When he dies, I bury him with his creations in the garden, Take comfort in the flowers that grow atop his grave. I ask the plants if they're my father. They whisper back, yes. So the third poem in the collection is A Monster Blood Drive, starts a series of 4 poems, all inspired by the 4 Monster Blood books, which is the book that received the most sequels. And so it's kind of, if there's an arc in this poem, it would be these poems. And I feel that it's the heart of my collection. If it has a heart, kind of this twisted sort of queer, weird love story. Um, so I'm not going to read all 4 poems, but I'll start with the very first one. It's A Monster Blood Drive. When we first met, you bewitched me, though it felt less romantic the second time. You once told me love was all consuming, devouring everything around it and not even spitting out the bones. I wonder if all this is a gift and not a curse. Okay, that's a fairly short piece. I find that I am nowadays gravitating a lot towards just shorter pieces that pack a punch. This one, A Picture Perfect Nightmare, is based on Say Cheese and Die, and this one was kind of a chance to experiment a little. It's consists of one-line stanzas. The book, of course, is about a haunted camera, so my approach was kind of taking an approach of like a kind of a cursed photo album. Okay, so A Picture Perfect Nightmare. Photo of the poet as a young man. Photo of his house in the suburbs. Photo of a ball in the yard. Photo of a shiny red car. Photo of dented metal. Photo of your 12th birthday. Photo of a broken spine. Photo of the family cookout. Photo of something burning. Photo of your parents smiling. Photo of their bones underneath. Okay, I'm gonna skip ahead a bit. This is The Living Dummy's first night. Night of the Living Dummy might be one of the most iconic. I think people always associate Goosebumps with that image of the dummy Slappy. And for this was another kind of arc because there's 3 dummy poems, and these were a lot of fun, kind of getting into that nasty voice. A couple, quite a few of these. It's about kind of the monster's perspective. Um, and I think this is a good example of that. Okay, The Living Dummy's first night. Why must one twin always be the evil one? Can't both siblings be equally terrible, or must we again compete? See which one cracks the nasty joke and which one laughs. Ventriloquism is a sad hobby. To hear your voice through lips of wood, painted red for everyone to see, but they're too busy looking for the strings that make you dance. They don't know the difference between a puppet and a dummy because dummies speak for themselves. Maybe I am the evil twin, though I've always been more cut out for show. Okay, Believe in Monsters. This is based on The Girl Who Cried Monster, which of course inspired the book's title, which I think works quite well because so much of Goosebumps is this idea of not being believed, which translates into the poems as well, just uh, as one of the fears of growing up, not being understood. Okay, Believe in Monsters. Bookworm seems far too kind a name for an insect. Let's call it what it is, a monster. Something which infests itself between the pages, between all those cracked spines, chewing at bite-sized pieces until they choke on words. A library is a good place for a monster. The solitude, the peaceful quiet. There are no how are yous, no what do you do for fun. If anyone asks, I tell them I'm a monster. I smile when they never believe me. Place another book on the shelf, gobbling up bugs like candy. Okay. The Little Camp of Horrors. You've been staring into the fire for so long that it startles you when it's finally extinguished. You start to wonder if aliens also go to summer camp. Surely they must. In the last ghost story of the night, your counselor told you that aliens aren't so different from people. They fight over the top bunk, use their tentacles for baseball. When a stray marshmallow falls, they catch it. It all seems silly, really, camping out in the wilderness, one with nature, as if we're all just animals again, staring at the stars, wondering what life is like in the worlds beyond. Next one, It's called Summer of the Living Dead, which is based on the 10th entry, The Ghost Next Door, which is actually my personal favorite Goosebumps book. In comparison to a lot of the books, it's slower, kind of a slice of life. Certainly, it has the most emotional weight as the spoiler alert, the protagonist finds out she's dead. It was the closest the series kind of comes to an emotional gravitas. But yeah, you used to say the only thing you were afraid of was the dark, the way tree limbs danced outside your bedroom window, casting shadows on the lawn. You always told me they looked like ghosts, laughed whenever I said your house must be haunted. Ghosts don't come out in summer, you'd say, as though they were insects. But in every scary story I've heard, a haunting can happen anywhere, to a family sleeping quiet in their beds, mistaking the growing warmth as the heat of the season. If Looks Could Kill is based on The Haunted Mask, which is another of the heavy hitters that people. Um, so with this, initially it was set from the protagonist of that story's perspective, but this version, I felt that it needed to be from this evil mask's perspective in order to be the best work that it could be. Um, so this is If Looks Could Kill. One size fits all, they say, and maybe that's true. Or maybe the mask fits perfectly because you were always meant to wear it. Call me sentimental, but even an unloved face can find the right person. The one who pulls you from the shelf and admires your monstrosity. To be worn is to be loved. The way a child holds muddy toys tight to their chest, how that same child, older now, boxes up belongings and remembers the memories they shared. I'll be here, waiting for the moment you stare in the mirror, seeing if old clothes still fit. Dig me out of the closet. Remember the time you stopped being a frightened child, when you realized the face you wore wasn't a mask at all. This is skipping ahead. This is a shorter piece. This is Practice Till You Drop, based on Piano Lessons Can Be Murder. I play the piano while everyone is asleep, watching the way my fingers curve over the keys as if there was a second set to guide them. I play the song you taught me, quiet, maddening noise, and in my frenzy, I can imagine cutting them off at the wrists, screaming, "Oh yes, how beautiful it would be if these hands could play forever." Okay, Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf? This is based on The Werewolf of Fever Swamp, and maybe I should address my titles. Um, Many of them come from like quotes from the books, or the on every cover there's like a kind of cheesy tagline. Um, a lot of my titles for the poems are taken from those. I kind of strayed away from naming the poems directly after the books because I thought this was more interesting. So this is Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf? When they pull your body from the muck, they'll probably call you an unidentified species. That or some overgrown canine, the big bad wolf in all those fairy tales come to life. But no one believed the boy who cried wolf until he too was devoured, mistaking his screams for just another howl in the marsh. Most heard only the silence that followed, like a dream that wakes you up damp with sweat, a symptom of swamp fever. This is Nothing Scares Courtney, which is a bit of a fun kind of character study. Um, nothing's, and this is based on, it's called You Can't Scare Me. So nothing scares Courtney. Not the tingle of spider legs or the hiss of a snake. You can take a bee sting and not even flinch. You're the only person I know who still believes in Bigfoot, swears up and down about that uncle who saw him, how one day you'll meet him too. You look for monsters wherever you go, faces in the muck, laugh at how the mud clings to your shoes. I wait for the day something breaches the surface, pulls us down with it. It won't matter who's afraid then, when both of us are screaming. Yeah. Where Nightmares Come to Life is based on One Day at Horrorland. This was a fun one. Uh, there are times I wonder if it would be better to stay lost than to take shelter in the wrong place. If the only umbrella left was clutched in a 10-foot gorilla's paw, wouldn't you rather stay in the rain? You've never hid who you are. Danger, beware. You stick up warning signs at every corner, wave me through crowds of men in monster masks. You wink like we're both in on the joke, point to the hidden camera. But then you shove me towards the next attraction, and I see how real those monsters look, and I can tell the whole crowd is waiting for me to scream. Let's skip a page to It's a Monster Blood Drive, Part 2. This is the second part in that Monster Blood arc, continuing that kind of weird romance I was discussing. The image of Monster Blood Part 2 is this monstrous hamster breaking out of its cage, and the question is, how do you make a poem out of that? Um, and it's actually quite easy. It's a Monster Blood Drive, Part 2. Is it romantic if we take turns cleaning the hamster cage? I can play the strict parent and you can spoil it, feed the thing until it takes up our living room or grows to the size of a house. You tell me you only feed him when he's hungry, but I can hear you rumbling through the kitchen at night, so quick to make another meal. Our little monster, you say, and your laughter drowns out the sound of chewing. Field of Screams. This is based on The Scarecrow Walks at Midnight. Uh, this was one of the ones that I was able to have published prior to this collection's full publication. This was published in a site called Cul-de-sac of Blood, which is one of my favorite journals. They're great to work with. Um, okay. Field of Screams. My grandparents build another scarecrow, hang him in the cornfield, and promise he'll watch over us. They've gotten forgetful in their old age, misplace things, never remember why the scarecrows seem to move at night, blame it on sleepwalking when I hear rustling in the corn. I wake to find one at the dinner table, joke that he must be part of the family. When they laugh, I pretend not to notice the look in their eyes, the way they shift between me and the corn stalks. This is one of my favorites. It's called Worms on the Brain, and it's based on Go Eat Worms, which is about a boy who's obsessed with worms. Um, and this is from the worm's perspective. Okay, worms on the brain. For every insect squashed, every spider stomped and flushed, the time has come for revolution. Because the truth is, we outnumber them eyes, legs, mouths, in every way that matters. At night, we can creep over their bodies. At night, we can consume them. To anyone who's ever fried bugs on the sidewalk or cupped their hands in the grass searching for something to squish, we'll be there, branding a silver pin over your bed. There's an old myth that says one worm cut in half becomes two, but a human dissected is just mess, and both halves rot the same. The Remains of Harrison Sadler. This is based on a Ghost Beach, and this is one poem that leans darker than a lot of the entries in this collection. Um, I etch the name on your headstone, watch as it materializes like an apparition on paper, the name of some distant cousin or the great uncle who died in the first winter. You've always known animals can sense ghosts, the way their bodies reek of death, as though the scent burns in the clothing like cigarette smoke. Let's pick the bones that wash ashore in the morning. Let the meat dissolve in the acid of our stomachs. Our first meal as a family, post mortem, sucking down blood and hair, so warm against the cold. So the thing about Ghost Beach is, the thing is, dogs are able to sense ghosts, so the ghosts eat the dogs. Um, but with this poem, that was the image I was trying to convey, but also I think it can be interpreted as cannibalism, which I think works. Um, but okay, let me rest in peace. This is based on a Return of the Mummy, and it's the start of a kind of I call it the letter poems, kind of done in the form of a letter, kind of which I think works well with this books. There's a lot of weird family dynamics in this poem in this collection. This one especially. Okay, let me rest in peace. Dear brother, a lot has changed since you died, and I think maybe you'd even like it here, in this world of luxury and cable television, where the people say things like totally tubular and dude, that's rad. They've built new chariots called skateboards. Maybe you'd like these two, going faster than anything we thought possible. Don't you remember, brother, all those times you said you dreamed of traveling? What these people need is a ruler, someone to guide them like the pharaohs before us. But your body is ancient history, and when they pry open your tomb, they'll be amazed at the lives we led. I'll understand if you're afraid, brother. I've seen many things come and go, but all this time you've been asleep, dreaming, remembering a past preserved in amber. So in the 90s, when Goosebumps was huge, like when they slapped it on every piece of merchandise you can imagine, one of the most prominent images was this mummy on a skateboard. And so with this, I wondered, can I work that into this poem? And that's why there's a, so yeah, can a skateboarding mummy have poetic weight? I tried. I don't know. No. Okay, read at your own risk. This is a fun one. This is based on Attack of the Mutants. Our teacher assigned us a paper over the weekend. What do you want to be when you grow up? I tell her I want to be a supervillain, the kind in all my comic books, who took what they wanted and didn't give a damn about helping others. In the latest issue of the League of Good Guys, the masked mutant turns into a squid and squeezes the life out of Molecule Man. I read it under the covers, praying for the mutant to tear himself from the panels and take me with him. Together we can rule the world, I say, and with a pair of scissors I free him from the pages. When the paper's edge cuts my skin, I look down at how the ink trickles from my skin, half hoping I was never made of anything else. Unexpected Hair. This is a weird one, but one of my favorites. It's based on My Hairiest Adventure. This is how stories like this always end, right? With a shocking twist. A wake up to find your reality isn't what you thought it was. One minute you're a boy with a dream, the next you're begging for scraps at the dinner table. And that's when I remembered I'm actually a Labrador or something. What is it kids normally do with their parents? Eat and play catch? It doesn't sound that different from being a dog. Once I watched an old sitcom with Dad, a father teaching his son to shave for the very first time. When it was over, Dad cried and fetched his razor from the bathroom, as if he could cut off my hair and find something else underneath. Skipping ahead a little bit, this one is called Encyclopedia of the Weird, which is based on a book, It Came from Beneath the Sink. Our dog digs up potatoes in our new backyard, lumpy, half-grown vegetables he brings to us at the dinner table. We scream when one of them has teeth, bares its fangs, and bites Dad on the knuckles. The librarian points me to a book on monsters. It says we're probably dealing with a lynx, a vampire type that feeds on your life force. The same book says it's a distant cousin of the gruel, which resembles a kitchen sponge and hides in small spaces like closets or the cabinet under the sink. When I slip in the shower, burn my hand on the stove, I remember how the gruel is said to feed on bad luck. I search beneath the sink, listening for the breathing of something in the dark, and I wonder just how many monsters are living here. So I think as this collection progresses, initially my approach was writing poems even for people who haven't read Goosebumps. So I think the early poems are devoid of like direct references to any characters, which kind of changes as I read the Attack of the Mutant poem. There's some direct character mention drops, and that's the same in this poem. The mention of the gruel and the lynx, which I think was necessary for this poem at least, given its weirdness. This is the second of the Living Dummy poems, the Living Dummy's Second Night. Again, it's kind of fun to do the evil villain voice. You paint a picture and call it art, a hidden talent worth showing to the whole family, bask in the oohs and the ahs. I make a few minor touch-ups and they call me crazy, as if the brushstrokes I paint over your family portrait are any less of a creative expression. Comedy routines take practice, time spent wasted on an audience that will never get the joke. So here's another. Go on, paint our beautiful house, the little golden sun that hangs overhead, pictures all safely tucked inside. While you're still sleeping, I write the punchline in dripping letters. A house can be a dummy's head, made out of wood. This one is called In the Changing Room. It's based on The Barking Ghost, which is not really a favorite of mine. This one was actually recommended or suggested by Josh to read, so I'll do that. In the Changing Room. The news station plays a story about a missing kid, and I think, hey, that could have been me. Maybe it was me. Yes, some poor frightened boy lured to the woods by shadows. I've had so many bodies I can't remember. People always forget that a curse is still a form of magic, as if the means to change your life can't be found in the middle of nowhere, as if a shack cannot be made a church. What is this if not a blessing? The way the animals come creeping in through cracks in the wood, a chance to see the world through their eyes. I dream as they dream, unafraid, not even as the dogs bark. Okay. Someone's been stalking in my garden. This is based on Revenge of the Lawn Gnomes. This is this is one of the few poems in the collection to take perspective of a parental figure, um, which makes it interesting. But it's also pretty fun, I think. My son takes a paint can to the neighbor's fence, writes FU in big red letters. When no one is looking, he tramples through the garden, crushing melons under his muddy sneakers. He tells me it was the gnomes that did it, cheap lawn ornaments that move only in his imagination. I'd like to pick apart his brain, see what fruit is growing at its core. Am I a bad influence? Yes, maybe he does get it from me, the lying anyhow, the way I sneak out of the house at night, whispering to gnomes in the dark. Maybe I'm just tired of the way our neighbor's garden always grows more beautiful than mine. Grass greener, roses redder, vegetables so big I can crush them in my hand. Sometimes I wish my son was a gnome. That way, when the sun rises in the morning, I could scrub the paint from his hands, leave him standing in the garden like nothing ever happened. I should say that writing Sometimes I Wish My Son Was a Gnome made me laugh for like 10 minutes. But life is scarier than the movies. This is based on A Shocker on Sock Street. And I guess while approaching this collection, there was I think, a few ways kind of to approach Goosebumps poetically. And I think one of those ways is to thinking of how it exists in kind of the ongoing conversation in horror. And I think in a lot of ways, the Goosebumps series exists in the same realm as like the B movies of the 50s, and which R.L. Stine, of course, grew up in that period. So it makes sense that um, so much of that is reflected in the series. And Tales from the Crypt is another big inspiration for Stein. Um, and I think this poem kind of captured that B movie magic. Um, but even though the monsters are cheesy, that doesn't mean they're not dangerous. Life is scarier than the movies. I can remember the name of every scary movie I've ever watched, but I can't even remember the face of my mother. Not her name, not a single memory of the way she used to hold me. But monsters, I know those well. Piranha people, the Toadinator, the ones on the big screen, as if my first words were spent screaming at the latest creature feature. He once showed me how those monsters were made, metal interiors stuffed beneath plastic, wires crisscrossing in ways I could never understand. You told me this was all it takes to create life, a simple flip of a circuit, as if it were only a matter of code. Delete mother, insert giant mantis. But maybe the monsters only come to life when the movie begins, the audience waiting to be afraid. New Face, Old Nightmare. This is based on the sequel to The Haunted Mask, which deals with a different mask with different effects. Um, I'm getting too old for Halloween. That's what my parents say anyway, and maybe I'm starting to believe them. I can't walk house to house without my knees locking up. Can't eat a piece of candy without fear of my teeth rotting away. This year, when I pick out my costume, I find a mask that looks just like me, a wrinkled, green-skinned old hag. I'll put it on, have one last Halloween before I croak of old age, scare the trick-or-treaters as they come passing by. I'll tell them how much scarier Halloween was when I was a kid, when every mask always looked so real. But when I jump from the bushes, they take me by the arm, say, "Come on, Grandpa, let's get you to bed," pluck the spiders from my hair. Haunted House Tour is based on The Headless Ghost, kind of a classic ghost story. Um, the head makes a loud snap when it's pulled off, a crunch, like splitting a chicken bone and sucking out the marrow. The thing about heads is they're easy to hide. You can make a game out of it, see who can reunite the missing head with its body. Search the house closely. Pay no attention to the voices in the other room. I'll read this one, Jungle Magic. It's based on How I Got My Shrunken Head, and it's told from the shrunken head's perspective, kind of imagining him like 15 years later when the protagonist of the story is kind of an adult and still kind of talking to this shrunken head. Next time, let me tell the one about the tiger, or how we were almost swallowed up by quicksand, the mud making a loud squawk like it does in all your computer games. Or maybe I'll let you do the talking. Leave me stuff somewhere in your bag so you don't have to pull me out at every date, telling the same old story about the time you were gifted with jungle magic. I'll skip the corny speech, the whole the magic was always inside you thing. The truth is, most people don't like the sight of green flesh. Sew my lips together if you want. Shrink me down even further. Make me so small that maybe you'll forget. But if you're bored, I can tell you the story again, and maybe this time you'll listen. I'll tell you the part about the tiger. Oh, yes, I always like the part about the tiger. Okay. The Monster or the Egg is based on egg monsters from Mars. And I think that as important as it was to kind of explore these books poetically in terms of kind of searching for kind of reflections of myself, and it was also important to embrace the series weirdness, um, and not take things that seriously. Well, still, so the monster or the egg? Care and patience. That's what most everyone needs to raise a pet. That and a warm place to sleep in. Your closet will do just fine. You always dreamed of being a scientist. Remember the day you scooped a baby bird into your arms and nursed it to life? It shouldn't be a surprise when the egg hatches, how the yolk stains your clothes. This is it, the discovery of a lifetime in the palm of your hands, the kind of life you could only imagine on a distant planet, staring out through your telescope. It runs warm across your flesh, scrambled, over easy. You start to think that maybe you're not ready, you, the proud new parent of an alien life form, scraping yolk off the floor. But then you walk outside to a meteor shower, lay an egg on the front lawn. Skipping ahead, this is called Home Alone with a Monster. This is another letter poem. This is based on the book is How to Kill a Monster. Dearest grandchildren, your grandfather and I will be gone for the day. There's still milk in the fridge, and you can heat up some lasagna if you're hungry. You can watch TV if you get bored, though we only have 3 channels, 2 of which are news. Oh, and one final thing. Don't open the locked room at the end of the hall. That's where we keep the monster. He's asleep now, of course, but it won't be long before he wakes up. I'd love to leave behind notes, a guide on how to kill a monster. But the truth is, not even we know. Be it poison or fire, the thing persists. But you are resourceful children. Perhaps you can succeed where we failed. Find a way to put it to sleep for good. I always dreamed of taking you into the swamp, listening to the sounds in the bog. There are others out there, I know, ones even hungrier. I hope they never come for you. But if they do, remember this. If you can kill one monster, you can kill them all. Trick or Treat Forever. This is based on Attack of the Jack-o'-lanterns. It's always fun to write a poem set on Halloween. Favorite day of the year. Okay. Trick or Treat Forever. On November 1st, I mourn the loss of Halloween, weep at candy wrappers scattering the ground like cemetery flowers. There will come a time when all these decorations are torn down, making way for next holiday, jack-o'-lanterns rotting to mush on the porch. If it were up to me, I'd make every day Halloween. We'd exchange currencies and scares, gorge ourselves on diets of chocolate. Each night would be a new neighborhood, a new costume, an opportunity to be your most terrifying self. Next year, when you return to trick or treat, I'll be waiting. I'll be older then, fatter, like you want me to be when you consume me. Maybe I'll taste of sweets. That time you puked out your first piece of candy, said, "Oh, what a strange diet you humans have," and I watched as you whisked back into the stars, leaving me with the monsters on the porch. The dark always made them look scarier, made them look almost like friends. Vampire Breath is actually the only poem in the collection directly named after a Goosebumps book. Um, this is another one kind of dealing with weird family dynamics in a horror lens. Grandpa leaves his dentures in the bathroom. I put them on and imagine what it'll be like when I finally grow fangs. Soon, he told me on my birthday, gifting me a bigger coffin to sleep in. But when does all the cool vampire stuff happen? The stuff in the movies, changing into bats and mist? Because right now it's just thirst. The family bickering at the dinner table for the last sip. My grandfather's breath reeking over me as he promises that one day I'll be just like him. Okay, sure. I think this is called A Finger Licking Nightmare. And it's based on the book Chicken Chicken. And I should preface that this book begins with a bunch of chicken noises, and I don't know if I have the confidence to stand up here and balk quite yet. So I'll just read the translation of the balking. The day you turned into a chicken was to me like any other day. I got my morning paper, listened to the sounds of roosters crowing. Somewhere out there, someone wakes to the sound of a baby crying. Buck, cluck. Children spend their first words mimicking the sounds of animals, tiny noises from the back of the throat. Chickens hatch and they know to follow their mother, disobey and get eaten. Such are the rules of nature. Practice as you did when you were a child, that tiny cluck, and know most chickens don't get the chance to speak. Apologies always sound better when said through a beak. Okay, the final poem I'll read is one of my favorites. This is another one I was able to find publication for prior. It's called Read It and Scream, and this is based on The Blob That Ate Everyone. There's a scene in my story where the blob hides in the basement, licks its lips hungrily, waiting for fresh meat. It's an autobiography about my life as a writer. At the end, it rampages through town, crushes buildings, eats everyone. If everything I wrote came true, I'd make the blob eat me too. I'd start it from the beginning, a dark and stormy night, a curious child searching the basement for a light. So, yeah. Yeah, I am.
Yeah, and I'm grateful to these questions in the creative writing program. So John and I'll have a little sit down talk and then open up questions.
And people in the room can ask too.
Yeah.
I'm full of questions after that.
Yeah. So we'll take about 5 minute break. If you want to buy a book, I'll be over here, and then yeah, feel free to go through.
I'm gonna write. Well, my friend was, and my friend was, I won't come to the moon tonight.
That's fun.
I'm serious and they look good.
Yeah.
You should stop.
Oh, yeah.
Start with 30.